Hey everybody, today we're going to learn about working from an ellipse and gaining complexity from that same ellipse. Oh, here comes my dog. You can probably hear toenails. Alright, I'm going to start with a new file. Now this, I'm working in a program called Sketchbook Pro, and the reason I'm working here is basically for ease of distribution of these lessons. You'll most likely be working on either newsprint or a Strathmore or Bristol fine drawing paper. Let's start with a simple ellipse in space. Now, if we imagine our vanishing line somewhere at the top of our page, not that distance, but if this was a train track or a road, you'd see. I'm going to throw an ellipse in, and you can see it doesn't quite happen perfectly the first time. I'm kind of feeling my way around until it becomes a believable circle laying down in space. From this believable circle, I'm just getting rid of some of these helper lines. If you need them, draw them. You need to realize that every drawing you do at this stage is a learning experience. We're not going for a Michelangelo. You're in training, so you're going to have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, as they say. Now, immediately, I'm going to add some complexity to this ellipse by throwing another ellipse on top of it. And what do we have? That's right. We've got a can of tuna. No, we don't have a can of tuna. Not yet. I'm erasing that. Going to increase my eraser size. You can work with a kneaded eraser if you need to. Don't be afraid to erase the bad lines. I now have a cylinder, short cylinder in space. Anything that's on this cylinder will also reflect the ellipse edge. So this line will have to have a convex and concave surface depending on which direction we're drawing. Here's our label. Tuna. Shading. Our light, we'll say, is coming from here. It's Mr. Sun. So this will be our hot spot on this edge. Perhaps this will be our hottest spot, and over here we need to shadow lightest region to darkest region, and then a little bit of reflected light on this side. So I will throw in my darkest region, go progressively lighter, and I'm doing this in stages. So we have our dark, dark, not so dark, dark, not so dark, dark, getting lighter. We've now turned into the area of light. So dark, region of light. And you can see my cross hatching is getting more and more sparse as I travel into the light area. Our reflected light is not going to be as light as our realm of light over here. It's probably more correct to say it should be within this realm. So we're going to throw a little bit of reflected light. Now our shadow, obviously, if it's a three-dimensional form with cast light coming in from the source, it's going to throw a shadow. The darkest region of the shadow is next to the form. And from there, I draw, remember our graduated shadow. Here we also have a graduated shadow from lightest to darkest. EST. And since we are talking about ellipses here, for believability, our can needs some three-dimensional edge. And then smaller ellipses for our lid. This is taking a simple ellipse, adding some complexity such as our value study, depth, and a little bit of a surface to sit on. This being the shadow representing the surface. We really don't know if this is a tablecloth or if it's a cutting board or it could be a countertop of marble. Any reason or any materials in particular are not going to behave much differently where the shadow is concerned, unless they're highly reflective, such as a piece of glass or something, or even the highly reflective nature of granite or something. But you'll generally only see a slight reflection fading into whatever the texture is. Here that's my pseudo granite texture, but the shadow principles will remain the same. Shadow will be cast from the object. As light hits it, it casts a shadow. Light wants to travel around. Light will be bouncing back to create a reflective light region. There's our reflected region. And this concludes my first ever lesson within Camtasia. Again, the program I'm using is Sketchbook Pro. And it's actually available for your iPad and even on your iPhone, I believe. I am using it on my Mac in the PC version. It has plenty of brushes. If you see down here, here's the marker version. Change that to a, let's see if I have a brush. What's a paintbrush? Airbrush. Takes a longer time to build up. But for these demos, I'm using the pencil version. This version behaves very much like what you're working with right now, and I don't want to add any layers of confusion with some fancy computer tricks. I want to stay as true to pencil and paper as I can, at least with these demos. And so that's it. Welcome to class.